Hey guys, welcome. How are you tonight? What's up? Sorry, my camera is right here, but my monitor is a little bit higher. So if I'm looking up, it's just because I'm looking at your wonderful comments. Hello, welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lisa. So I'm really excited. I'm starting our series on Silhouette Studio Basics. When I asked you guys if you'd like to see more videos on Silhouette, it was overwhelming. That is what you wanted to see. So I am happy to do that. It's less setup for me anyway, and I really, really love this software. So what we're going to go over today is I am going to show you some of the basics of how to set up your software. But really, today is going to be focused on, for those of you who are new users, basically the basics of your Silhouette software and how you can bring in your files to manipulate them however you need and then send them back over to Glowforge. So I do have more lives coming up that are like more design heavy, but today I'm just going to start from the beginning. I want to build foundational areas for you guys to kind of not figure out, but to show you like how this base works and how we can build off of that. So if you haven't been on a live with me before, I love interacting with you in real time. So if you have questions, please ask them if you see them. I also love when you say hi to me or give me your opinion on something or any sort of interaction. I love feeling like I'm not the only one in the room, which realistically that's what's happening right here. But hey, you guys are here to keep me company. So hi everyone. I'm just going to say hi to those of you who are live with me today. Carol, Be Embellished Crafts on YouTube. Ruth, Wendy, Chrissy, and Marilyn have said hi so far. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so happy to see you. So before I get started, I want to ask you guys, so I do want some participation from you. So the first question I have is, do you use Silhouette Studio? And if so, to what extent do you use it? You use it. So I do all of my designing in Silhouette Studio. I do have Illustrator, I do have CorelDRAW, and I do have Canva. Canva I do use for all my graphics, but as far as my designs for my Glowforge, I use Silhouette for that. Part of the reason why is that I have been using it for a very long time. I've been using it for like 6-7 years. I have figured out the best way to use it. And one thing that makes Silhouette Studio a good software to design for Glowforge is that both the Silhouette machine or the vinyl cutter and a Glowforge use the same sort of vector design technology. So the way that the design looks and how we treat it is the same between the two. And Silhouette has that in mind. So I prefer to design in there because it's more, in my opinion, accurate to how the cut will go. Have I ever cut wood with fabric on it? Not yet, Chrissy, but that's a good idea. That's something that I can start doing. And then Be Embellished says, I use Silhouette Studio Business Edition for my Glowforge and lately to make SVGs for my Cricut. And Mary Alice has Business Edition to use for vinyl cutting and Corel for sublimation. So yes, very exciting. So that leads me to the next point that I'll say about this. When using Silhouette Studio, there is a free version. You don't need a Silhouette Cameo to use it at all. And then there are different tiers to it, different upgrades that'll open up more features. There is Designer Edition Plus, and Business Edition. Business Edition is what we are looking for. It has the most features. It has a lot of time-saving things, which is great for those of us who are running a business. And most importantly to me is it allows me to export my files as an SVG. So this allows me to send it to Glowforge, or as Be Embellished Crafts on YouTube said, she makes SVGs for Cricut. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of get going. Let me see. Ruth says, don't have Silhouette Studio, but use Design Space. Watching and see if I can handle it for my Glowforge. Yes, Glowforge! And hey, Toy. And then Be Embellished Crafts asks, is Corel good for sublimation? I know a lot of people who use it for sublimation. I've used Corel, and it's a very nice, powerful software. So I think that you'll be in good hands with that. Okay, so let's share the screen. Hi, Hillary. I'll see you at Christmas. So let's share the screen and let's talk about what's going on here. Now, I purposefully left my tabs open for this session because one, I didn't want to restart Silhouette Studio, but two, I'll show you a couple things going on here. So I'm going to be working with 2 design files that are already made. I got them from CHAMELEON Cuttables. Sabine over there makes beautiful designs. I don't use them hardly enough, so I thought today would be a great time to show them. But let me go through and kind of work through here. So we're going to make a new tab just to start. All right, so here's our workspace. So Silhouette Studio is still going to treat your workspace like you're using a vinyl cutter. Not a big deal, not the end of the world, but that's one thing to look out for. So the first thing that I do is I set up my page. Most of the time I design first and then resize later, but some of you may want to design to fit a certain area and you want to know that from the start. So we go to our page setup. Our page setup is over here on the right. You'll see it. It has a little page setup. And so you click on that and pretend I just clicked on it because it was already open. You can see that it's asking like details. So what machine are you using? What kind of cutting mat are you using? And what's the size of your media? So when we're cutting with Glowforge, we're not using a machine technically, and we're not using a cutting mat. So we're going to go over and do none. And you can see right away, it gets rid of my cutting mat, because if you're not using a machine, you're not using a cutting mat. So now we have a basic square workspace, which you know, if you've worked in different design software, you'll be familiar with that. And so we have our media size right here. So you see we have width and height. Because I've used Silhouette for so long, I like making my workspace 12 by 12. Now, if you're working in something with a specific size, for example, I'm working on a sign that's actually vinyl. I can set it to 16.5. That's how wide it is. Hit enter. And then my height, this is a 6-inch high sign, and then hit enter. So I can set up my workspace like this. And then you have a couple other things. One thing that I recommend is if you are designing for Glowforge, just turn your machine to none. If you keep it for Cameo, then you're going to see you have the mat, which you can take off right here, number 2 cutting mat. You can turn it off. But then you have this arrow, and then do you see this red line here? Now, this red line is important if you're using Silhouette. This is your safe cutting area. If you feed in material that is not on the cutting mat, there is a margin of the material that your roller has to grip onto. So you can't cut past that roller. That's your grip. So this red line indicates your safe cutting area. But we're not using it right now. We don't need it. So we can turn our machine off. We'll do none. And that automatically turns off the cut border. Okay. So now we have our design all set up like this, and now we can do our design within here. So I've gone over this a couple times in different lives, and I have more videos where I'll go over more designing. But let's say we just make a design really quickly, whatever, we'll do a circle. This is not actually being sent, something like that. Whenever we're done with this, we'll select it and export it as an SVG. Now, one thing to keep in mind, most of you know this because you've done some sort of Glowforge designing or Silhouette working. The thing that you need to remember is that when you are working with a script font, so I went over here to the left of the text tool. When you're working with a script font, like this Medina Clean that everyone uses, if you look, the way that this font is set up, let me zoom in for you. Let me delete this to show you. Check it out. We have lines in here. So if we were to really look at it, you see how these lines overlap? So the letters are made to overlap each other. I'm going to fill it in. So I should select it and fill it in. So it looks great, but it actually still has the overlapping lines. I'm going to hit this line color, this fill color tool right here, turn it off, and we have the lines here. So one thing to remember when you are working in Silhouette Studio and you're working with a script font is you do want to weld it if you're cutting on vinyl or if you're sending it to Glowforge, because these lines will affect it. If you're cutting on Glowforge, it's going to cut all the way through. If you're engraving on Glowforge, it's going to engrave this, leave this overlapping area blank, and then engrave around it. We don't want that. That's not good. Whatever. So we're just going to right-click, weld, and then those overlapping lines are gone. So you can go right here, right-click maybe, group, or make compound path. Most of you know that I prefer make compound path, but you can go from there. So now I'm going, and this is a quick live tonight. I'm not going to go super into detail about most things. I want our software lives until I get more heavy into designing to be like fast and easy, okay? Short and sweet, it's the word that I was looking for, fast and easy. That's so dumb. Okay, so before I get going, do you guys have any questions on what I talked about so far or anything you want clarification on? I'm breathing too hard. No, I'm yawning. I'm so sorry. Okay, so we have our workspace here. And so the next question that I get very often is, I purchased an SVG design. How do I bring it into Silhouette Studio because I want to change it? Or how do I export it out? Like, how do I find it? Well, you'll be happy to know that bringing in an SVG file into Silhouette Studio is way easier than you think, okay? So if you go right here, we'll go to File, Open, and then we'll find our SVG file. So I'm just finding my other one, Gingerbread Ornaments. This is from CHAMELEON Cuttables, and now we have them right here. Don't overthink it. If you cannot bring in an SVG file, you need to check to make sure if you are still using Business Edition, okay? So let me, actually, while I'm doing this, I'm going to just make my holes. There we go. I'm going to make it like this so you can see the whole thing. And the way that you can see if you have Business Edition is up in the top here. I'm at the very, very, very top of my window. It says Silhouette Studio Business Edition. If it says Silhouette Studio or if it says Silhouette Studio Designer Edition, then you do not have the right version. So I have a link in my description that you can upgrade to Business Edition. Now, listen carefully. I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. It's going to go to a website that has the base upgrade there already. If you already have Designer Edition, then you choose the drop down to pay for the bridge, okay? You pay the difference, all right? So if you've paid whatever it is, $40 for designer edition, you're not paying an additional $99 for business edition. You're paying $99 total, and then you have business edition. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so now we have our SVG that we brought in here. So we can see that we have 2 layers to it. I just hit Control Z. We have our top layer and our bottom layer. Now, Sabine has set this up to be 2 cuts, okay? We're cutting in 2 different colors, all right? So let's say I want to do all of these. You can go over and it's laser ready. And so these have different line colors and they should be able to go in right away. So let's go to my Glowforge and let's just upload. I'm uploading the file exactly how she has it. All right, so let me just find it real quick. I should have bookmarked this. Sorry. Oops, no, not that one. All right, so here's the second one right here. So we are bringing it in. Ruth, $99 lifetime membership. Yep, it's a one-time purchase. It's not a subscription. You don't have to do anything else. You buy it one time and then you're all set to go. Okay, so here's the file as it came in from the seller. You want to find sellers who know how laser files work because they'll set it up properly for you. So you'll see we have them all in here. I can move them, but you can see over here on the left, I'm sorry, you have 2 different steps or functions. And so these are your 2 cuts. So if I want to do the base one and not the top, I would just go through, do cut, enter your settings however you have it. And then the bottom one I would ignore. And you can see, I mean, you can't see right now. Let me just choose one. So now you can see just the outline has this dark coral and the inside part is not, it doesn't have anything. And then after we do our second one, we can ignore it and then cut the inside. And now we see our detailed design just like this, and we want to cut it. Now, this is good. It's already set up that way, but let me go back to my Silhouette Studio and let me show you if we were to customize one of them and how we set it up to do a cut and engrave or a score and an engrave, that sort of thing. So let me go through and grab this little gingerbread guy. I'm just going to hit Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Okay, so we have this little guy here. So let's say we want to add a name here. We want this to be more festive and holiday. So let's say we want it to say Jerry. I don't know why I went with that name, but I did. Okay, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to choose a font. So lately I've been really liking this font called Florania. I don't know. I just think it looks really good. And let me make it black so you can see it. Okay, so let's say we want this to be part of this design right here. Okay, so one thing we need to decide is, do we want it to be part of our little gingerbread man? We want it to be white. Like, what are we thinking? I don't know. All right, so let me go through and do it black and we can see how it goes from here. So let's say we want this to be one ornament. We want to run one pass and we want to cut, engrave, and score. Okay. So I'm going to do a couple different functions in here, and then I'm going to show you how I can set up the 3 different functions for that. All right, so now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to weld this Jerry right here, and then I'm going to group it together. So we have it all set here. So the one important thing to note about this right here is that the J is going past our guy right here, which we don't really want. So I'm going to take this corner right here, hit the Alt button, and just make this so it fits within our guy. I'm actually going to turn it using this green dot to fit in there a little bit better. Okay, so here is where we run into issues. So in any other world, we would just do our little score, cut, whatever. But we do have lines behind our object here that we want to get rid of. So I'm going to grab my Jerry right here, hold down Shift, and grab my little guy right here. So Shift helps you select multiple items at once. Okay, so you can see 2 things are selected. I'm going to go over to my Modify panel right here. And so we want to get rid of this line that is behind our name here. Okay, So if we go right here to subtract, we don't want to do that because if we subtract, it gets rid of our name. You see that? I'm hitting Control Z. But if you go to subtract all, it looks like nothing happened, but it took out the background of our name right here. That's perfect. We are going to engrave the name, score our little gingerbread man, and then cut this outline. So if you're designing for yourself, then you'll go right here. You'll change your line color to like brown. I'll change this line color to white. And then I'll change this one to black. I'm sorry if it gets loud. We have a haunted fake Roomba that just turns on. We've reset it a million times and it just turned on again. All right, so we'll have it right here. And so you can see we're all set to go. I'll go to File, Save Selection. So that's one thing to keep in mind is you want to save your selection. You don't want to just do a plain save. The plain save is going to save everything in your workspace. So for me, it's really problematic because I like to test stuff on the side. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. I like to test stuff on the side. I like to do a bunch of stuff. And so when I do save, it pulls everything in there and it makes your workspace super big. So if you want to select what you're working with, then you can go and do File, Save Selection, and then save it to your hard drive, okay? So I'm just going to put this right into my downloads, really. And then you want to change it to an SVG file right here. Gingerbread. Gingerbread Jerry. Jerry Gingerbread. Whatever. All right, so let's go over to my Glowforge. I'll go back to my dashboard. And then create, upload from file. I'm going to go to my downloads. Gingerbread Jerry's right here. We're going to let this process, render. And so now you can see we have 3 settings right here. All right, over here on the right, we have 3 settings. Those are our 3 different functions we have going on right here. All right, so we can see we have, this will be our engrave, this will be our cut, and this will be our score. So whenever I do this, I always like to do my cut last. So I'm literally going to take this, I'm going to take this cut, drag it down. So it's my 3rd step. And then I'm going to make my score first. I don't know, that's a preference. So you literally just check this, go to score, birch, engrave, birch. These are ones that I programmed in, and then cut, birch. And then this is engrave. So now you can see when you zoom in, the great thing about Glowforge is it does a different line color for the different functions you have in here. So you have a cut, a score, and engrave. So the engrave is going to go back and forth and fill this whole space. The score is just going to run a line all the way through, and then the cut will just go through and cut. So that's kind of like I said, I want these to be short and sweet, like 30 minutes. So do you guys have any questions or anything you want me to repeat on here for you? Nope, that's not it. Like anything that you want clarification on, like how do we feel? So that's just like the basics. I've noticed that when people start with Glowforge, they want to know how to set up their page. They want to know how to bring in an SVG, and then they want to know how to bring it into Glowforge to cut. So I showed you how to set up your page. I showed you how to bring in an SVG into Glowforge to cut. And then I also showed you how to do different functions. So let me know, do you have a question? Do you have a thought? Do you have an opinion? Do you have plans tonight? Like, how are we feeling? What's going on? I want to know. Okay. So if you guys don't say anything, I'm glad that you are still here. And if you're watching the replay, I'm glad that you are watching on the replay later. Yes, Ruth was able to learn how to transfer a file from Studio to Glowforge. Good. I'm really glad. So I'm working on a bunch of topics. I monitor these comments after the live. So if you're watching this in the replay or even later and you want me to cover something, I'm happy to do it. Just put it in the comment below. Send me an email, anything like that. And then I'm also working on a list of projects to do for the holiday season. 12 days of Christmas crafts, depending on how many I can get. Maybe we'll do more. I don't know. We'll see. That's a lot going on. But I'm glad that you guys were able to join me. I hope you guys have a really good night. And you guys take care. And I will be back live again next week.